I'm Jon Sargent, and it's December 2021. We're in San Francisco at the Fairmont Hotel at the California Alarm Association.
I'm Charlie Darsh with the Security Museum.
Nathan Rousted from Wayne Alarm Systems.
And I'm Ralph Sevinor from Wayne Alarm Systems and the Security Museum. We're delighted to have you here. We've been collecting artifacts for over 25 years, and we saw the need to really put all the people together that have created such a great industry. A lot to learn in this. Thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to your comments in the future as well. Thank you.
Hi, Jon Sargent with Ralph Sevinor. We're here at the California Alarm Association, San Francisco at the Fairmont Hotel.
On 2021.
2021. So today we're here with Bud WULFORST, and want to chat with you a little bit. I want to kick this off with even before you got into this business, okay? When you were young, what did you think maybe you wanted to do in life? Did you have any thoughts of what kind of business or what you really wanted to do?
I wanted to be a biologist.
And what drove you to that? Was it out of stuff you did in school or?
Reading,
Okay.
school. I did very well in biology in school.
Okay. And this was, where was this, Reno?
No, this was in
Mount Kisco, I think.
Long Island.
Oh, Long Island.
Okay, Long Island.
Next to Queens. It was just over the line.
All right.
Next to Belmont racetrack.
So, how did you get into this business at the very beginning, you know?
The very, very beginning.
Yeah.
My uncle, Bill Bogue, was working for the Owl in Queens, I think the Owl. And my father came back from the war, and he got him a job with Bill Rubin, who was Norman's father.
Oh, okay.
So he worked there. I worked sometimes in the summer with him. Then I'd bring home.
So did he invite you, or how did you get connected into this?
Well, my father worked, and I worked in the summer, mostly painting bell boxes and because everything was reused.
How old were you?
About 12, 13. So I kind of learned how to building this wooden screens.
Yeah.
Back boring and half round. And because we didn't do the ADT way with the round dowels, it was, the back boring and the half round.
So that was pretty young to get into the alarm business back then. And then, how did you progress? Was it with his company?
Actually, no. When I got out of high school, I was technically too young to go to work for a company that used power tools and stuff like that. So you had to wait till you were 18. So I went to work in a place that we would pull hay off of the freight truck, the railroad cars, and load that up. I mean, talk about dangerous. There were conveyor belts. It was, the laws are kind of stupid sometimes. So in any event, I worked there 6 months till I turned 18, and then went to work for Maxie Siegel. That ring a bell?
No.
He was advanced security on Long Island. So I worked there for 6 months. And
What'd you do?
installed alarms.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do any other kind of work besides the alarm business?
Just that 6 months.
Yeah, you got right into it. Yeah.
And obviously I was kind of into it anyway.
So Max, take us from Max Siegel.
So Max Siegel, I went upstate to Westchester. My father and his brother had started to do something there, but Norman gave me a better offer. So I took over whatever they had done. They probably had about 20 accounts. So I took that over, and the rest is history.
So tell us, what kind of stuff were you installing in those days? What did that, because very different than now. What would you put into, an alarm system?
Well, I made all the controls myself, which were, depending on what resources I had available, they were either a draw lock that pushed the alarms up, and
Had the bar that turned,
yeah, a little
micro switch or leaf switch.
no, it actually pushed the armature of the relay directly up, so that you'd set it up so that the armature would fall far away from
When you turn the cam. Just the ingenuity is amazing.
And there was no bell relay. The back was a one relay.
Interesting. And it would latch in? It would latch also? So it's supervised, has sensitive relay and a
Well, the
latch.
armature fell so far away it couldn't reestablish itself without a mechanical.
You had to reset it manually.
Yes, with a
Interesting.
And
You know,
then, of
it's
course,
amazing because we look at it today and we can call a distributor. But back then, they had to actually make a lot of this, and just the ingenuity of the design was fascinating. How did you learn how to make that? Did you have an electronics course? Or
no,
one taught another?
no. When I was working at Supreme in the summers, part of the job was cleaning up painting the boxes and
Relays and
cleaning relays and
Right.
making sure everything functioned. Most of the time you had to put a new draw lock in because the keys were missing. But it was,
And at this point, did you, was this your full-time job?
yes, after.
Right.
Yeah, that was my full-time job. We stuck quite a bit of fishing in there, little hunting, but
When you said fishing, I thought you meant fishing of wires and walls.
No,
I'm
I
talking
mean
fishing of
fly fishing.
fish.
So these early systems, were they battery powered?
Yeah, hang up a couple dry shells and
Number six,
usually
yeah.
the back end of the line, which was usually the bathroom,
Yeah.
and then feed that through maybe a screen.
So with dry cells, did you also use wet cell batteries or no? Dry cell. So how many, is it like, was it 6 volts or?
Well, typically we would put 3 volts at the end of the line,
Okay.
2 batteries, and 4, which were 6 volt for the bell battery.
For the bell, okay. And then I guess, after some period of time, you test them to see if they needed replacing?
Usually the house batteries lasted about approximately a year.
Okay.
The bell batteries could last 4 or 5 years as long as they didn't have a ring on.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And you built that company up, how big?
Eventually, about 100,000 operating.
Well, that was great size.
Wow.
But it was a long
And what time were we talking, 1980s, 70s?
in the 70s.
That is amazing.
Yeah, I'd like to just ask a little bit more. So obviously door contacts and I guess window contacts.
Yeah.
And then,
Like in the front areas of the retail part, foil.
so you did window foil.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the back, usually I build a screen for
Okay.
the back window, and usually build it right on site.
Did you have a storefront or a garage?
Yeah, at my house.
So you would, but that you had to do, that's what you did years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was a trunk slammer.
We were all trunk slammers at one time.
And what else was there? Did you use any type of stuff like what you would find in a floor mat?
I did later some residential, put mats under the road and stuff like that, but mostly it was contacts. There were no motion detectors back then.
Right. Did you do tripwires like with a
Yeah.
ball trap?
Yep.
Okay.
In retail settings,
Yeah.
not in, commercial settings, not in residential.
So, and were those set in, if you're in a retail or commercial, so that's a trip wire, but, if it was a business open for the day, would they have to reset those?
Yeah,
The wires?
every day.
Every day you'd have to put the wire back in. and
Unravel
set.
the wire and
Is that
plug it
right?
back in.
That's amazing. Yeah.
How did you sell back then? With a whole different kind of sort of concepts. How did you market and sell back then? Throw bricks in windows or something?
No. Whenever it was lean, I would put on my suit and knock on doors.
Oh, so wow, that's great. So you did it all. You were installing, you were selling, marketing, servicing. One person.
Yeah.
Okay. So at that time, so it was strictly local.
Strictly local lawns, yeah.
And then when did you get into the monitoring component?
Much later, we bought,
Same company, Bud?
we bought a company, an answering service in Mount Kisco, was in the house, and Lori had.
So you bought the house with the answering service?
Lori saw this ad in Penny Saver and said, "Look at this, Bud." And I guess she was very sorry she did. But so 2 years of negotiation, and I bought it. The house
With the business?
the answering service.
Do you remember the name of the answering service?
I think it was Pecora Answering Service. That was the name of the owner. And that was,
How were those systems monitored back there through an answering machine or answering service?
You just bought the house.
bought the house, had the
answering service.
answering service in the dining room. And bought a color cabinet from a guy in Connecticut.
New Bright,
No,
Connecticut.
well,
Firelight?
no, he was a nice guy.
Conrack?
Potter.
Well, it was a Potter rack.
Okay.
But it was a guy that went to the
And you said it was McCullough or it was direct? Okay, McCullough.
Okay.
direct wire in my area was prohibited. We did have a few, but we used module arms instead.
What's pretty interesting is his thought process, because it's a residence, getting a lot of phone lines to a residence would be difficult. There was already an answering service there, so already had phone lines, right?
So you had, I guess, then decided, you made the decision you're going to start monitoring these contraptions you had built and put together. And, but having a code wheel, so, you.
Well, I didn't make them.
No, I know that.
I bought probably Potter and other types. Actually, Potter had come out with a 7-zone transmitter. It was pretty electronic, and it was, what would we call it, interrogatable. You broke the line for like a second, and then it would
report, yeah.
And those are all mechanical, I imagine.
No, this was
Had some
electronic.
electronics?
Yeah. The mechanical ones were the original ones. Some Ademco made a transmitter and power. And for the fire alarms, primarily power.
Okay, so then you installed your McCullough receiver, I guess, and then what kind of register did you have? A punch register or a pen?
Pen.
Register. Okay.
And then we also, as we expanded, I bought a Wells Fargo cabinet, which had ink, ink bottles. I always liked the pen readers together.
So you were running the answering service and the monitoring center out of the house?
Yes,
So Laurie...
in the living room.
I'll be
in the living room, wow, that's funny. So what happened? Did someone stay up at night, or you had a loud bell when someone would get up?
No, someone stayed there.
Up, they actually stayed up all night.
Yeah, slept on the couch.
So then you started receiving signals and you would dispatch. And back in those days, did you get runaway transmitters or,
Very, very few. After about 6 months, we moved the operation downstairs into the garage, and it was much better. And we had a night guy.
Oh, so at that time you had a higher
Retired.
Yeah, and we're talking 19...
It was 1977.
okay.
Talk about entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I don't know.
Did you,
Maybe stupid.
were you then calling the police or were you calling a guard or
No, it was the police.
always the police?
Yes. And they, at that time, responded. There weren't that many alarm systems in residential areas. Scarsdale had a lot.
And then how long did you do this working out of the garage?
A year and a half. And then we rented a place in a supermarket. It was the area in the supermarket where they kept the compressors, the bathrooms, and so it had a parapet around it, and all I had to do was to upgrade the roof, put stone on it, and I got my UL listing.
And that was UL for fire?
UL Berg and Fire.
Berg and fire.
Yeah, we never issued certificates, and I was very successful with the insurance companies. They said they want to double A on this one. Okay, but I can't provide a
Run a response.
response. It's all, I can provide police certificates. And they would say, well, what area? I said, we have great police response, and it is, let's say, Mount Kisco area. So they almost always accepted that. The only competition I had was ADT, because Burns at that time did not effectively have run a service in that they could actually handle.
Yeah, so let's touch on that, on competition back in those days, so you mentioned you had ADT, what else was out there? Were they small time guys or?
Yeah, there were a lot of them, and I started to monitor for them.
Okay.
And those were my prime targets.
And then at that point, so we're talking mid-70s now?
Yeah.
So digital communicators just evolving?
I bought one from FBI,
Oh, sure, yeah.
and the first one didn't even have a printer.
CP220.
Could be. So there was not
So
even.
there's no record of it at all. It was just...
No, just in the memory.
Oh. So that was your first digital
Yeah.
that you got into. How many roughly, can you say about how many monitor systems you had on the McCullough back then?
I would say probably 1,000.
Okay. And so you
A
had,
lot of college
and that was a mixture.
The only effective,
Right.
cost-effective
Yeah.
way of
So
providing service.
You had burglar and fire. Did you do any type of medical or panic? I mean, you probably did hold up.
Hold up, yeah, commercial hold up. And that was probably about the extent of it.
Okay. Was there anything outside of that you were doing with your business at the time? You know, did you do anything? You had sort of an answering service. Did you do any kind of elevator phones or?
And actually, no,
Okay.
that came later.
Uh-huh.
And those moves must have been difficult because it's not like today, it's a data circuit.
Yeah.
They had to actually move the lines.
It was a copper wire.
Yeah.
I had a friend work for New Jersey Bell, and he came in, backwired the whole, traced the route and going to bring the plug board down. Backwired the whole plug board, disconnected it, carried it down. And as we were moving it, those things are heavy.
Yeah.
And as we were moving it, now we had to take calls.
And when did you sell off or get out of the answering service business?
When we sold the company.
So you continued right to the end?
Yes.
Interesting.
It was a separate business. Laura ran it. And it never grew more than like about 90, 95 accounts. But it was cash flow.
Yeah, sure. Do you remember about what year and so what were you thinking when you were going to actually sell? You know, did you know where you're going next or?
Had no idea. Had no idea of selling.
So how did you?
Ray Adams came up one day, Ray, and he said, "Bud, we'd like to buy your company." And Ray was, an imposing guy. I said, "Okay, Ray, what do you want to pay me?" So he said, we'll give you a 30 multiple, which was like, that's what money. At that time, I used to buy them for 18 multiple, and a 24 multiple was like, that was the
top.
The top. And
Now, that's
I never
interesting.
Paid,
So-
I never paid that much.
Yeah. Huh.
But when we came with the 30 offer, I said, wow, yeah, we'll go.
Okay.
So you decided that quickly?
Yeah. Well, there were influences that helped. I had to move into a new building. I had to automate the system.
So the time was
All
right.
mechanical and manual.
Yeah.
And
So we sell off.
Oh, wait. So this is, and when you were monitoring, okay, and you got a burglar alarm, did you have paper cards or something? How did you?
books over
Books.
register,
Okay.
open it to the number.
The signal coming in.
Signal coming in, and respond in whatever way it said.
Okay.
And then we had the open and closing racks,
So you had supervised systems too.
yes, a lot of them.
So you probably got clashes where the signals sometimes came in on top of each
But
other.
The operators were pretty darn good, way better than I. They didn't even have to get up. They knew, they could hear.
They could hear it,
signal,
yeah.
And they saw the circuit, and they said, that's Harry. So,
Yeah.
they were
Okay.
very good.
So then,
Quite a talent back then.
yeah. So let's go forward from at that point then. How did you make the decision to go where you went next?
Lori and I had bought a house in Reno that was kind of off the cuff, and we weren't going to move there, but we were going to rebuild it as a second house. And so when the offer came in, I asked my attorney, would it be beneficial to have a Nevada residence, because there's no income tax in Nevada. So he said, yeah, but it doesn't really pay to go find a house. I said, I already own one. He said, get on a plane, register the boat, get the kids ready to school, get your driver's license, and...
So it was a matter of tax planning.
Yeah, tax planning, like 30 seconds before.
So you moved out, you still had family in New York. And, I mean, it was really a leap of faith, right?
Well, we didn't sell the house right away.
So you kept New York just in case.
And, yeah, we were thinking it might not work.
Right.
So we went, spent whatever tax savings we had on fixing up the house. And 2 years later, I said, Lori, you ever want to go back? She said, nope. I said, I don't need that.
That's great. And so you sold the house.
So we sold the house in New York. Yeah.
So now we're in Reno. So what do?
We travel, we spend money, and there came the time when I said, Lori, if we don't die by the time we're 60, we're going to be out of money. So that was, I bought a company in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Now, that was a locksmith first, wasn't it?
Well, it was Able Lock and Alarm. It was actually Able. I never really liked that because that was the locksmith way of getting it.
Getting at the front of the phone book.
Yeah, right. That was the old trick, I think, years ago.
Yeah.
AAAA.
Yeah, and then our competition came out with A. So he was A.
It was like the SEO of its time.
So I never, the alarm business didn't work like the lock business. In fact, almost all of our referrals came from the lock side. Because they were commission guys. The alarm guys were not commissioned. So the lock guys were always feeding us stuff. So it was a fun thing, but it had a substantial...
Do you remember how much you bought Able for?
Yes. I paid, if you factor everything in, including lock business, I think I paid at 27.
27 more.
Yeah.
So that was rich for the time.
Yeah, but it included the lock business, which was...
I see, right.
That was a $2 million operation at that time. And it was actually bigger than the alarm company. So over the next 2 years...
How much alarm recurring did you have just on the alarm side when you walked in?
About 90,000.
90. So it was good size back then, right? 90,000.
Oh yeah. When I sold the company in New York, I was the largest independent in Westchester. Nobody even came close.
Yeah.
Had 100,000 already.
Right.
There was at that time ADT and Burns. Wells Fargo was gone.
So now we're at Able, and did you have a strategy or a plan, like a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan, or it was a pedal to the metal type of thing and just push it as far as you can get? What was your strategy?
Strategy was we'd buy it, and I had investors, and the kind of 6, 7 year plan because, the investors didn't want to stay in there forever. So that was kind of the strategy. And 2 years into it, we got the offer.
And so you had to get the approval of all the other investors.
No.
So you had the ability to.
Yeah.
So after 2 years, you took it at 90,000 in rate and ran it up to
150.
150. So almost doubled it.
That was a lot of rate at that time.
Yeah.
Alarmco was bigger. They had about 400,000 of rate. And naturally, I tried to buy them several times.
And so you decided, so I guess it was one of those, like Ray Adams came and said, we're going to make you an offer and you're going to like the offer. And so you sold that.
And it was, we had no intention of selling it. And I did the math and I said, well, this is a fair thing for the investors. I didn't think it was the greatest thing for me, but for the investors, it was good. Got them out, and then we did it again.
So you sold it, and now you decide to go into semi-retirement.
No, because I was already in semi-retirement. No, I was retired, and now I was back at work for 2 years. I didn't like it, but there I was. So we bought another company, which we had bought their RMR.
Was there any non-compete or non-solicitation?
No.
So,
Very foolish. I would never do a deal like they did. But
and it was in the same area.
literally the same area. And it was a
Watching that today?
Yeah.
walk and alarm company. So we basically, Brian Harrison and Tom Churchell worked it and built it. And they built it up to about 30,000 of rate over a 6-year period. And I said, well, we got to do this again. So I bought a central station in Las Vegas, paid $1 million for it, and he had about 30,000 of rate. Between the two of them, it came out to about 65,000.
So about 30, up to 30X.
Good place to be. And at that point, then I started buying companies. And eventually hired Larry. And then I didn't do anything but buy companies.
So you were strictly focused on acquisitions?
Yes. And we did organic sales, of course, but that was not the driver.
So your strategy was the acquisition side? Looking back, can you talk about one of your best deals and one of your worst deals?
You want to hear about the worst?
Well, I'd like to hear about both.
I think the best deal I did was, remember Steve O'Connor? You know that name? He had a company called Centurion in Las Vegas, 35,000 of rate. And I bought him probably for about $1 million. And he was a good guy. And he stayed on, did sales, helped out. And that was probably my best deal ever.
And why was it? Because he stayed on, or everything he promised you delivered?
All of the above. He stayed on a bit. He did sales. He, a smart guy. He was a day trader. And apparently still successfully doing that, which is amazing in itself.
And then one of the challenging ones, or the most challenging?
The worst.
The worst. Well, there was one I got involved in Walnut Creek, California. And my partner didn't have a lot of rate. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't significant to that.
And what caused it to go sideways?
He was writing checks to himself.
Oh, yes, okay.
What are you doing? He said, well, I'm paying myself back. I said, well, that's what you're going to get when you get out of here. And I think you're going to get out of here right now. So we locked him out, and
You eventually sold that segment off?
back to him for about what I paid. So it was,
So at this time, you had a house in Reno, but you were living in Las Vegas? Or both?
well, at the time of the worst deal, we were living in Reno, and I was driving over to the Bay Area, once a week. And one of the operators from my central station managed, it was just security, it was a retail operation that sold security systems. And it was a franchise. It had 4 franchises. Well, we bought one of the franchisees, and that was it. The rest of the business created. And so that was in 19, I'd say about 1990.
Okay. All right, so then where'd you go? What did you do next?
Well, I tried to do a takeover on Homes Protection.
Did you?
Yes. That was the same one that bought me.
Back in New York?
Yes.
Oh, interesting, okay.
So I was too inexperienced. I shouldn't have done it, but we got almost 50% of the shareholders to go with us. And we had a London-based
Scusa, I think it was.
Scusa.
Yeah.
Scusa. Security Industries of America
USA or something,
Yeah. And so we had a ballot fight in London, and I lost like 49.5 to 50.5.
And I think ADT ended up with it.
What do you think? No, it went to a new group with.
They were bundled up with another.
Yeah, and several former National Guardian and Security Link people, at least in the Bay Area, went to work there. And
So Holmes had presence in the Bay.
yeah, in fact,
Yes,
our
it was
security.
the only other operation they had.
Yeah,
really.
but I remember they were poaching employees from us.
Oh, right.
And it ended up in court in a lawsuit. And for that short time frame, I think Dennis Stern actually was their attorney.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was Security Link. I'm pretty sure at the time, Ameritech lawyers that came in and said this isn't going to happen. And I was dragged into that one because I was on, the good side. We were losing our employees, our technicians. They were all going there. And Holmes opened their office at the other end of the parking lot from Security Link's main regional center there in San Bruno, California. So I remember that part of that time where it went. And but anyway, I don't want to take us away from where you're going. So after that, then where you at company-wise?
I had no company. I got involved again with one of my competitors in Westchester County, West Rappaport, ring a bell.
It does.
Had a company, Telephonic. He sold it at the same time I sold my company in '87. And called me, said, "Bud, my non-compete's run out." I said, "So is mine." Said, "Do you want to go into business?" I said, "Okay." So we went
In New York.
in New York, Westchester County, old stomping ground.
Did you move back?
No. Lori and I would travel back and forth every week. So that, it probably would have been a good company. I said, we were friends. We were always friends, even when he was my competitor. But we just couldn't operate together. So I said, Les, we got to break up the partnership. What do you think the company's worth? He said, $70,000. Okay, let's flip a coin. And I won. So I said, I'm going to give you a check for $70,000. And he said, "You know what, bud? I'm going to give you a check for $85,000. I won." So I said, "That's great." So went back to Reno, and then started the company in Las Vegas.
So altogether, how many companies do you think you've bought and sold?
7. So I probably bought
Yeah, acquisitions, he probably did, yeah. quite-
100. Well, maybe not hundreds, but in the hundreds.
In the hundreds of companies?
Yes.
That's amazing. So you've sold 6 or 7 times?
Yes.
But you've purchased in the hundreds?
Yes.
Amazing.
It was fun. That's part of life.
Yeah.
And selling.
So you like the acquisition? That was the challenge, the hunt?
Yes.
You enjoyed that?
Well, it was also the way to success.
If I was starting out today and knowing your strategy of acquisitions, what would you tell me? Give me 3 things that I should do.
Buy, integrate, buy. But integration is important, and it's not always that easy. Some of the companies I bought, the employees couldn't handle the regimentation, I mean, I'd be on work on time, and I had to hand in paperwork and stuff like that.
How did you deal with that? I know the hunt, the getting it and putting the deal together, that's the sort of the fun part, right?
Yes.
But then you got to deal with it, right?
That's not the fun part.
The maintenance.
Which is really important, right?
That is the most important.
So did you get involved in that? Did you have?
Of course.
Okay, so, but that wasn't the fun, sexy.
No, it was not.
Yeah.
Because I would say, other than Centurion, whose employees stayed on and were good employees because he ran a decent company, most of the small companies I bought, very few employees were able to handle more than, or we were able to handle them more than maybe a month or so.
One of the things that I discovered, and there was a gentleman, he since passed, Mel Mahler, and John, you know Mel, you worked with him for many, many years, and Bud, and I remember he told me years ago, he said people look at the recurring rate, and it's a mathematical number, but there's something that you can't really calculate. You get a lot of good people in these acquisitions, and a lot of times banks just focus focus on stripping out values, right?
Yeah.
And so I always remember that. So in all the acquisitions that you did you find a lot of really good people? I know you found bums, right? But did you find a lot of good people too that you held on?
I wouldn't say a lot, quite a few. And that was the bonus,
Right.
to have someone that actually stayed on.
I think at least I did. I lost track of that, the importance of, it was mathematical, right? And there's so much talent out there that we just need to take advantage of. I remember we did an acquisition in the same situation as, your bank gets a pro forma of one company and the other company, and then you have this sort of surreptitious combining the two, and you cut this position, you cut this position, you cut this position, and we did an acquisition. We ended up hiring everyone, right? So that's what I was saying.
Yeah, I think every acquisition we did, we hired everybody. But
That's fantastic.
they didn't stay long,
Right.
especially the smaller ones, because there was no regimentation.
Yeah.
So we lost a lot of potentially good people because they couldn't fit into the culture. But I would say the benefits of making acquisition, first, of course, is the financial. Second is the potential for getting good techs. And third is a whole new marketing area that you can go into. Yeah, so it all paid off.
Did you have, my philosophy has always been you want to build out your core area. Did you have any issue, for example, if it was Sparks versus Reno?
Well, yes. The first company was, we had a branch in Bullhead City, Arizona. And
4 hours away or something?
it had a long ride. I don't think it was 4, but it was a long ride. And I would go down there every 2 weeks. And it never turned the corner.
So would you consider that? You would look strategically now, looking at it now, right? You don't want to get something that's 500 miles away or 1,000 miles away, right?
I wouldn't, no. Mel did very well with that.
Right.
So that Able was a Las Vegas. And if you look at Las Vegas, you can see that there's no place else to go from Las Vegas. So it was almost a demand that you stay within your footprint because there was no other print unless you really traveled. And when we bought the company in Better Home Security that had the central station, we bought that and bought a lock company up in Reno. And that's where we got the A1 name. And that was in 98. So that was our really first opportunity to have multiple branches in different areas, very different areas. So
Is that the point that your 3 sons got into it, or were they already?
no, they had, Scott worked at Able in Las Vegas, and Howard used to work at night in New York.
Oh,
And Leaf, he worked in New York a bit.
so did all 3 kind of go right into the business out of high school, or?
Kind of. Howard went into the Marines, and after he came out, he went back to work with us. And it was, the whole family has stayed industry connected except for my daughter. And, so it's been a fun ride.
We were talking about it earlier, what would you tell someone, even today, that was a well-seasoned company, if you were divided to three things, focus on A, B, and C, what would those three things be?
Well, acquisitions.
So, okay, A is acquisitions.
Yeah, acquisitions, which get you additional sales and potentially employees. So acquisitions.
And always recurring revenue tied to that?
Always.
Always, okay.
And the second?
Keep the employees happy so they keep the customers happy.
Right, that's well put. Simple, but well put,
It's
right?
not so simple. And
So focus on the employees, which focuses on the customer.
yes, because ultimately the customer is the name of the game.
Right.
And keeping them happy.
Okay.
And third? Not to put you on the spot.
I'll bet I know what it is.
What would you say?
Have fun.
You got it, man.
Well, thank you so much. This was great. This is really eye-opening.
I want to give you just one chance. We're at the end here, and so if it's open to anything, is there any last thing you'd like to say?
Well, there are probably along the way things I should have done different, but I don't think I would change my life one bit. I had brought kids.
That's pretty amazing. And Bud is kidding because we've got some of his kids here, so we love them all.
Yeah, my wife did a great job with them. They're all great people.
Well, both you did. You should be very proud.
Yeah.
So, John, any other thoughts you have that we should probe Bud on?
I think that's it, but we'd like to maybe leave it open for a future talk.
This is great.
Like a little
This is
fireside
really,
chat.
I learned a lot. Yeah.
Thank you, Bud.
I learned
It's
a
a
lot.
real pleasure
Thank you
to
so
talk
much.
with you
Great.
about this.
Thank you.
Thank you.